Here now we will be discussing the section 66F of the IT Act, which deals with cyber terrorism. It is a very widely worded section, which provides punishment of which may even extend to imprisonment for life. I think this is the most severe strictest punishment which one sees under the IT Act. If any person here with intention to threaten the national sovereignty, integrity or security of a nation, or harm its unity, or to strike riots or terror in the people, causes any kind of harm including denial of service attacks. Now that is this section which will get invoked. If any person with this intention will access a computer without permission or exceeds the authority which is given, introduces any virus or contaminant which is likely to cause death or injury to persons, or destroys any kind of property which is public property or essential services delivered with the help of IT systems. Now that would be affecting critically the sensitive systems or the critical information infrastructure of the country. Now that is something which is an offence again under the IT Act, which is section 66F will cover under the umbrella of cyber terrorism. Now this also includes such situations where a person knowingly or intentionally would access a computer resource without any authority, or would exceed the authorization and steal information which is confidential to our nation's security or friendly relations with other states, or which is likely to cause any injury or loss to the integrity of the nation or security of the nation or public order as such, the decency or morality of the nation, or relation to contempt of court, defamation or incitement to an offence, which would be covered all by the cyber terrorism. It is a very widely worded section, that is the reason I said so. But when we look at any kind of disturbing videos, for example, videos which would invoke communal or anti-religious sentiments, or something which would cause a public riot, or something which would hamper the nation's security, that act which when committed through the use of networks or computers or any kind of communication media would also fall under section 66F of the IT Act. Now this takes us to section 67, which is publishing of any obscene materials on the internet. This section is basically providing punishment whenever there is transmission of any kind of obscene content, anything which is publishing electronically, any kind of content which is harmful in the sense that it is not public for the purposes of viewing decent. Therefore, this section will be invoked in those cases which will provide a punishment of imprisonment of about 3 years and fine up to 5 lakhs or both. There have been a few cases which particularly have dealt with section 67, and there have been many FIRs registered under this particular section, where in cases of investigation, sometimes even forensically some data has been found that an email has originated from one computer to another person's computer. By way of an email, some obscene material has been sent, and such sections will get invoked like 67. Now the famous case, the first case which probably has occurred in this particular area has been the Bazi.com case, which is the DPS MMS fraud case. And a long time ago, this was a video clip which contained an obscene material which was listed on the Bazi.com site, and involving school children, and 2 school children. Now this had some obscene materials, and when the FIR was filed under section 67 of the IT Act, the section 85 also got attracted, and section 292 of the IPC. Now here when a person deliberately puts a commercial video online in order to basically make commercial gains, but it is an obscene video, this would fall under section 67 of the IT Act. It was initially the director of Bazi.com was arrested for these offences. However, later on when the case was decided in appeal in Anita Hada's case, the court took the view that under sections 85, in case an offence is committed by a company, the director cannot be made personally liable in case the company itself has not been impleaded as an accused. Section 67A deals with publishing any sexually explicit materials. Now, this would include any kind of videos or clips or small recordings which were visual recordings, and transmitting them online by SMSs or any kind of messaging services available, or emails, and this is again punishable with imprisonment up to 5 years and fine up to 10 lakhs in the IT Act. Now, the next section here we have is 67B, providing for the offence of child pornography. This is providing punishment for that. Now, here the punishment is up to 5 years and fine up to 10 lakhs of rupees. It's a very deterrent punishment for the reason that child pornography is an offence which is very heinous and prohibited world over. And there have been insertions of such similar provisions even in other countries, and therefore Indian IT Act has also now has a separate section for dealing with child pornography. Now, here we see that even browsing, copying, downloading any kind of child pornographic materials, selling or renting or viewing, collecting, all this is an offence under the IT Act. Section 67C, here is the liability of intermediaries for failure to preserve any data. Now, in case there is an intermediary who intentionally or knowingly does not preserve or retain the data which is required by the law enforcement like the central government, liable for punishment by way of imprisonment up to 3 years and fine. Such acts are liable for punishment. Section 71 deal with the penalty for misrepresentation. Now, if a person is misrepresenting or he deliberately suppresses some information which is material, does not reveal it to the controller or the certifying authority, and he is liable to a punishment of imprisonment for up to 2 years or fine which is extending to up to 1 lakh or both. Section 72 and 72A particularly deal with the penalties for breach of confidentiality. Now, in this case, when there is a confidential information, a public officer who is empowered by the IT Act which he holds, and he deliberately discloses this information for his own purposes or own gain, which is unauthorizedly done. Now, that is something which is punishable under breach of confidentiality by section 72, and 72A deals with similar punishment where the person who is disclosing the information is not a public officer empowered by the IT Act, but a private service provider. That's the distinction between the two sections. Now, section 73 and 74 of the IT Act, they deal with a penalty for illegal acts which are connected with electronic signature certificates. Now, here there is a punishment for publishing any electronic signatures which bear any kind of false particulars. The imprisonment is up to 2 years or fine up to 1 lakh or both. Section 74, it provides punishment for publishing electronic signature certificates for any fraudulent purposes, which again is punishable with a term extending up to 2 years or fine of 1 lakh or both. Now, in a nutshell, when we summarize this module of say module 7 on cyber crimes and contraventions, we can summarize it in this way that whereas section 9 would deals with the contraventions, section 11 in fact deals with the cyber crimes, and they are the key difference between the cyber crimes and contraventions is that whereas cyber crimes are dealing with mens rea and actus reus, that is a mental intention to commit a crime along with the act itself, the contraventions are more like civil wrongs or the torts, where there may be a negligence involved of the person causing a harm to the other and causing a loss, but does not have a malintention as such to do so. Now, there are different punishments for different offences, and for contraventions as well there are different penalties, and new sections were added by the IT Act amendments in 2008 and 9, which have made the IT Act more updated and more abreast to deal with or combat the cyber crimes which we are facing today. I would say that there are still many amendments required in the Act. However, compared to the earlier version, it does have many sections which would cover most of the new offences which have emerged in this area. Now, they are mostly cognizable, but then the problem is that a lot of them are bailable. This becomes problematic, particularly in cases where the criminal is out on bail and he might try to tamper or damage any data which is digital data, and digital data is fragile, it is volatile at times, so it could be easily damaged, and that is an apprehension which law enforcement really has. So in a nutshell, the two chapters 9 and 11 basically cover both cyber crimes and contraventions. Thank you.